Greetings YouTube, and welcome to my latest weapons build. I've been doing a number of arm-based weapons lately, and if you've been following my videos, you've seen them. Partly I think because I've been wearing a brace on my left arm every single day. So it's got me thinking about things that are strapped to one's arms. And I think it's kind of led me to this project here as far as weapons concerned. This is going to be an arm sword. Now, we come out of the right out of the gate. This is not high quality steel. This is just off the shelf flat stock from Home Depot. It is nothing special. Okay, so even if I had the ability to harden it, it would not harden up. This is going to be a dangerous toy, but it is not going to be a great high quality cutting instrument. And that is just not going to happen. But what I'm going to do is on this end, I'm just going to whack these two pieces off and make this into a point just for fun. This is going to be my sleeve for my arm. Now it's a little on the loose side, it's 4 inches diameter. With my arm, my bare arm, but I would be imagining you'd be wearing something, so it would be a much better fit. And this one, I tried on my last, I did this on my, the Ripper, I used a similar idea. I found one though, it's got a metal, can't get the damn sticker off, so that sticker is staying, I guess. This has a metal covering on it, and the covering is actually pinned, riveted in place in a couple of spots. So I don't have to worry about this coming off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend this down and slide this onto the blade, so it's going to slide in there, and then I'll put when I'm done, once it's all tightened, I'm going to put bolts all the way through. So I'll have these on the outside, and these will not be bolted through. These will continue to be clamps. But this will be go right through both these sections, attach it to here, and this will be underneath, and then these will help tighten it and hold it in place on the top. So that could be a very simple solution. It was under 10 bucks, like 9 something for that one. Then we have some 4-inch hinges. I'm going to try a different idea for making a grip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount 2 hinges so that they come down at an angle, and then 2 hinges will connect these way to make a trapezoid. And the bottom of the trapezoid, the wider section of the trapezoid, will probably be about 5 inches wide, is going to be where the padding is for the grip. So it'll be a piece of rope wrapped flat stock. And the top, the shorter end of the trapezoid will be underneath here, probably about there, which is where they'll be mounting to the blade, and the trapezoid will be kind of coming out that way. So 3 inches here, about 5 inches below. And when I was checking this out, I'm like, okay, these are 4 inches. They're the kind of beefiness I want. And they were $3.80 a piece. So I thought, okay, let me check out the 3-inch ones. I look at the 3-inch ones, and they're shorter and they're not as thick. And I'm like, I'm trying to bait, and I'm like, okay, well, what's the price difference? So I looked at the price difference for 3 inches. It was $3.78. 2 cents. A 2-cent difference between the 3-inch hinges and the 4-inch hinges. So these are too big. So I'm going to have to nip that off. I'll probably reuse one of those holes, and I'll put another hole here. I will set it up so that I only have to drill a hole. This one hole will be doing double duty through both hinges, and the other one will probably be by its onesies. That's how I'll set this up. So there'll be some overlap, but I think that one's going to be by itself. There'll be one in the center for both, and then the other one will be on this side. So there'll be hinges will be held in place with two bolts. One bolt will just be doing double duty, and there'll be three bolts doing enough effort to hold 2 hinges in place. And I'll do the opposite on the other side with a piece of flat stock, and then bolting them through. Which I won't have to cut these, I don't think, at all to make them fit what I want to fit. We'll see on the side slopes. You'll see this when it all shakes out. And once that is done, and I have to mount the sleeve first. Because the sleeve needs to go first so I can figure out where my hand's going to be. Because where the sleeve is, I want this point to be just inside the crook of my arm. So if I'm holding my arm like this, I want that point to be just there. so that it's not in the way of my arm. So if I have the thing like this and it's longer than that, when you were to rotate it, that point would come up and hit your arm, throwing off your ability and possibly harming yourself. So you want this point to not be in a position where it's going to be able to hit your own arm and harm it. So where this point ends up being is going to determine where the grip is. So once I figure that out, that's where the grip will go, and that's where the grip, and after the grip was going to be all blade, and that's the radius I'm going to cut on the two ends, on the two sides, one end, and then I'm going to probably just do a chisel grind to bevel on one side, and not overly. Again, this is not going to be razor sharp when I'm done, but I think I can make it sharp enough to be dangerous. It's definitely going to be pointy enough, because I don't want to get too pointy. That doesn't really what I'm looking for. I think here, I'll play with it because if it's too blunt, making something more shallow is much easier than if you decide you've cut a shallow curve. Now you're stuck with the shallow curve. So go broad, and then you can always make that more shallow later if you decide you don't like it. Alrighty, so first step is going to be cutting this and this, getting those shaped where I want them, and then I'll worry about how to get this mounted. So the next step is you're probably going to see this, hopefully with some holes in it, so I can mount this like that. As promised, this is the rough end. Well, this is done actually. This is deburred and everything. That's all I'm doing there. These two holes are drilled here. I've marked the two holes in the cuff I'm going to be using. How I'm going to drill that is the next step, because I don't know how I'm going to hold that where I need to hold it and drill it. So that's the next thing I have to figure out. And this is roughed out. I've used a flap wheel to give me the shape I want, so I'm happy with the shape. I have not gone any further other than deburring the bottom. The top has not been deburred, so it's a waste of time because I'll be putting the bevel on that side. But I wanted to get it roughed out so there were not any major burrs, because when you're cutting with the angle grinder with cutoff wheel, the big burrs end up on the bottom, so they're gone. So that makes this thing safer. And I didn't put the bevel on it yet because, again, I don't need to make this more dangerous than it already is while I'm working on it. So now I have to figure out how to drill the two holes in the cuff. And once I get all of that malarkey bolted together, or at least I have to assemble it. It's going to be annoying because I have to assemble it so I can figure out where I want the handle. Then I probably have to disassemble it to get the cuff out of the way so I can make the handle. Oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah, I have to make sure I mark which side is which so I know which side I'm working on. This is going to be the top, so I should probably put a B on the bottom right here or something where that'll be covered up when I'm finished. But yeah, I need to make sure I'm working on the correct side, because that has happened before. I've grabbed a piece and cut something and had the wrong end because I wasn't aware of which was which. I get things turned around or flipped. So yeah, mark your pieces. So get the cuff drilled, assemble this, and then figure out where the grip has to be. I've successfully drilled the holes in this thing. I hope I can get them all to line up now, and this is how I did it. I set up this piece of wood hanging off the end, and I just held it in place with my hand and drilled very, very slowly. And it worked. I clamped it together for the first hole, and the first hole I then put a bolt through so I could drill the second hole. So yeah, so that is now done. Now let's see if I can get it assembled. Yay! Now how I said I was going to be fitting something and taking it off and fitting it and taking it off until I got everything set up the way I wanted to, that's bull. Getting this to where I wanted it in those two holes taking me 45 minutes. No, I had to open up both the holes by putting a 1/4-inch drill bit in there and then walking it in a cone shape to get them to be looser, and I finally got everything together and bolted And I don't care if the bolts are too long. That's fine with me. These are tight. The things end up being kind of D-shaped when I was finished, and that's okay by me too. It's just going to stay. So the sleeve, the collar that was a little bit sloppy before is now not sloppy. It's not tight, and I could easily put on heavy clothing under this, inside this thing. But it also is not as there's not as much room in there as before, because obviously I've lost like almost an inch, if not an inch, because of flattening it up against the top of the blade. So now, good, fine, that's finished. And this worked, and I like this sleeve. So because the sleeve comes with this steel coating, this worked for this project. It's not going to work for the project I have coming up in the future where I plan on making a shield. That's not going to work for that one, because I can't bolt it this way. I'll have to bolt it a different way. But this, for this project, because it goes around this, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Worked exactly the way I wanted it to. It was just very difficult to get here. So I'm not going to do anything from about this now. Next, I'm going to figure out where I want the handle, and then I'll work around this for the rest of the project. But this is done. So here we have the two hinge sections, two hinges, and how they're going to be mounted. I had to do two holes and not just reuse one because of the hole placement. It just didn't work for me. So I did two holes. They're only about an inch apart, which is not as much stability as I would like, but the hinges are also gripping the sides of the blade, so there's some stability side to side as well as linear and rotational. So I've got a fair amount of stability here. I actually don't have a clue if this is the place where this thing has to go yet. I've marked it with a marker, but I haven't made a mark across the blade yet, because now that I have these two hinges done, I will use these two holes to now mark the holes in the blade. So now I need to put a mark across the blade, perpendicular to the length, so that I can, at the proper location, and then I can mark up the holes for the blade. And once that is done, and I can get this bolted together, then I can start working on the next section, which is attaching the two hinges to a piece of flat stock, getting the flat stock where the length I want and everything, all that done, and then finally attaching the two hinges together. So I'll have this hinge assembly attached to the blade, and I'll have the hinge assembly attached to the grip, and then I'll marry those two together. The nice thing about this is, unlike the difficulty I had with the sleeve, is I'll be able to take this apart and get it out of my way when it comes to grinding the edge on the blade itself. This will not be in my way, because I could very easy to take this off and put it back on. It will not be a hassle whatsoever. Alrighty, so let's put a mark across the blade and then mark two holes and get drilling. Oh, and by the way, the setup I had done over here worked perfectly for my hinges. I hadn't taken it down yet, but because the hinges are narrow, I was able to put the hinges on here, clamp them, and drill them while holding them steady with my other hand, wearing a cut-resistant glove. And no danger, no movement, worked perfectly. So this little piece of baluster I've got kicking around did a wonderful job in two different applications. So here are the two hinges mounted where I want them. When I'm finished, these nuts will be on the outside. I have them here simply because it was easier for the assembly at the minute, but in the inside later will just be the rounded bolt heads, so it'll be much less dangerous to the arm. And I'm thinking the grip is going to go someplace about there, maybe? Yeah, I think something like that. I'm going to have to figure out what to do next with the hinges. So first I got to figure out how big I want the grip to be. I got to figure out how that's going to work with, I'll be doing a similar thing, but just on a wider scale on here. So this is 3 inches here, and I'm probably going to go for 5 on this. So very similar idea to what I've got going here, but then maybe on the next set I can actually reuse some of the holes. Who knows? That would make my life a little easier. But yeah, these things still bend and everything, so that's all groovy. And then it's once I get this one done, then it's time to marry the two together. And that's going to be a lot of figuring out, because that is when you're going to discover all the little things that are not quite perfectly square. Yay! I will, however, prevail. I will prevail. But I am also getting kind of tired. I've been down here for about 3 hours, and I think it's time to call it quits. I got pretty far into this job so far. I'm quite happy with this. No major hassles, I mean, no major mistakes. This was a hassle getting this together, but now that it's assembled, looks awesome, works well. I'm happy with that. So now we're working on this, and once we get this done, it's remove this, set it up so I can start grinding the bevel on the blade, and then at that point it's just going to be reassembly and I'm finished. So the grinding of the blade may be the simplest task involved in this whole process. Yeah, I keep making more and more complex builds for myself. I don't know why I keep doing that. I think I gotta make something a little simpler for the next one. Yes, that would be good. Alright, so we're gonna call that quits for this weekend. We'll hop back on this next weekend and finish this up, finish this assembly, and then hopefully get around to grinding the blade. Though I got no idea how long this is gonna take me. That could be a one-day job right there. We'll find out. This handle looks nothing like the piece of metal I showed you briefly before. The reason is that that piece of metal was not wide enough to accommodate the needs I had. So I decided to use this, which solves a couple of problems. It gives me a bigger grip. It's a little almost too large for my hand, but it would fit most people. I have short fingers. And you remember the old saying, measure twice, cut once? Well, I did a great job of measuring. The problem is I had these upside down. So I had the hinge going in the wrong directions. I need the hinge doing that so I can line things up with the hinges that are already in the blade. So I had the hinges upside down, which is why there's 2 holes here instead of 1. And once I got that bolted in place, and then I just went and did that one. I did not take it out, because getting that nut into that little location was kind of a pain in the butt, and I didn't want to take it out and do it again. So this is now the completed grip. So now I have to marry this with the blade itself. And I may have to make a modification to one of the hinges I have on that, because they're not quite in line with each other, and these are in line with each other, or very, very close to being in line with each other. So I need the other ones to be closer, so that when I marry them together, they will line up properly, because I really don't want the handle to be, not perpendicular to the blade. I'd like to get it as perpendicular as possible. I don't want it doing that. Alrighty, so now it's time to do some layout, maybe modify one of the hinges, and then drill holes to match in each of these to match each other, so I can bolt the whole thing together. So there's a finished handle. I've encountered a problem. And there's probably somebody watching this video, maybe more than somebody, that has up to this point told me that this design wouldn't work. They may have said it out loud. They may have typed it into the comments of this video. But I didn't hear it because, I'm in the past. So, can anyone figure out what the problem is? Because if I take the handle, come over like this, slide my arm in, works just awesome. It is really cool. Guess what? It also does. Yep, I made a mobile handle, which is not something I want. So, yeah. This has got like 4 hours into it, and I'm going to take it off this thing, and I'm going to have to just put it aside. Maybe I'll find a use for it someday in the future. Who knows? I mean, I even went to the trouble to knock those edges off, kind of give it a little more streamlined look. Wasn't that nice? Cool, huh? I'm not real happy at the moment. Not real happy at all. So, anyone out there who saw this problem before I did, Kudos. Thank you. I'm glad you're smarter than me. So now I have to go back to the drawing board, and I know what I'm going to do. I just have to go get the handle. I have some of the supplies here, and while I'm there, I can actually pick up some other supplies I need for another project. But yeah, I'm more than a little disappointed with myself. I should have seen that coming. Really, really should have seen that coming. Well, back to the drawing board. Here is my solution. This is going to be the handle I go with. It is less complex, less clever maybe, but I will admit it is cleaner, it is simpler. I thought about this design previously, but I thought I could be clever, and being clever cost me a whole lot of time for no good reason. So what we have here is, this is a standard handle you can pick up at the hardware store, just something for like a shed or something. But I think it might be called a barn door grip or something handle. And what I've done is I've just mounted a piece of bar stock on the bottom of it, turned it upside down, so this is where it would normally mount on a door, and that's the grip normally. So I've reversed it, and this is just a piece of bar stock that I had kicking around in my shop. This is 1 1/4 by 1/4 inch thick, which is overkill. I don't need a 1/4 inch thick piece of steel, but again, I had it here, so that's why I'm using it. And it absolutely ends up being just a perfect width for this, and it's very comfortable. And get my hand in there, and you can see how it does in fact work quite well. So all of the assembly portion of this project is done. So now what I have left to do is the grinding. And so I need to grind, hand out of there. Now I need to grind an edge on here. I'm going to go to chisel grind, and I'm going to start it. I'll put a mark here so I have a visual to go with. Now I'm going to start here and then go that way. It's going to be on the top, both for visual purposes and just because I think it would work. Would it work any different? I'm not sure if it would work any different. I like the visual, so we're going to go with the grind on the top. I will be taking this off so I can more easily clamp this in place for the grinding process. This is not going to be altered because it's too much of a pain in the ass to get off. This, however, is quite easy because there's just a bolt and a nut, so it's real easy to boom, boom, and you're done. This doesn't have to be disassembled now, it is complete. So, now to clamp this up and figure out what the best way to hold this while I'm doing my grinding. So this is how I've set up the clamps. I have one clamp clamping on top and one clamping on the bottom. This makes it easiest to line this up to get this nice and secure, and then this keeps the grip out of my way. So I got 2 marks here, and I'm coming off this mark, and I'm just grinding along here like that. And it's very, very tedious. It is very tedious. I'm about halfway through now. So I'm going to continue working on this, and if I can get this side roughed in today, I'm going to call it good. Yeah, because this is going to be a lot of work. I've already done the handle today, and I had a little small project which was not worth putting on camera to do something for work. So I miss doing the rough in at the moment. If I can get that done today on this one side, I'll call that good. 2+ hours later, and I have an edge roughed in on both sides. So now I have my angle grinder set up in my vise, and I get a brand new flap wheel on there. So I figured this deserved a brand new flap wheel. And now I'm going to begin to do the final honing on the blade. And again, I'm not going for shaving sharp. This is not great steel, it's mild steel. I'm just going for something that looks very cool and is still going to be incredibly dangerous when I'm finished. And once the edge is finally honed, then I'm finished with all the blade components. It's assembly time, and then it's the final segment of the video, and then time for pictures. And I hope I can get my wife to take a picture of me, because this is going to be really cool holding this thing. This is just a really cool design. So here we have a Wasteland pata, roughly a pata. my very own Wasteland sword arm, or arm sword, depends on how you want to look at it. So this is completed. It does have extraneous holes in it, but you know, kind of gives that apocalyptic vibe to it. So everything's finished. It's got a decent edge. It's not perfect, but you know, again, I'm using an angle grinder. Getting the thing on your arm is very easy. Just slide your arm in there and you are ready to go. So that's kind of cool. Now I realize that my arm is bare at the moment. If I were going to be using this as an actual weapon, I would have something on my arm so there would be less slop in there. I'd be wearing some kind of a jacket or armor or something. So it's going to have less slop than it does at the moment. In fact, if I ever do use this, say on a cosplay at Halloween, and I do post-apocalyptic cosplays frequently at Halloween, and I use real shields and weapons, stand well back from people, don't move, make them think I'm a statue. When they get close, then I move. The teenagers always scream. So I'm very happy with this project. It came out very well. The original handle I designed was an absolute waste of my time, but this one is simple and elegant and it works. So that's cool. Again, mild steel, so the edge isn't to be the greatest. And this was this side of the blade was a little rougher, literally rougher. There's the tap when this was rolled out. This section did not roll well, so I put this on the inside. This cuff idea here was awesome. I don't think I'll be using the cuff with the metal sheathing again, because I have a cuff idea for a shield I'm going to build, but that really is going to be a rubber one like I did on the Ripper. But these plumbing joints, these rubber cuffs are just beautiful. They work so well, and they allow you to get your hand in there so fast. It is just awesome. It's much faster than using a belt, and you have to tighten it down, and the belts very rarely stay tight anyway, so they're going to come loose on you. So why don't you go for speed and flexibility over having to worry about a belt? And that's why I went with this. So this has been my Wasteland kata, or arm sword, I guess you want to call it. I haven't decided which term I'm going to use yet. So if you've gotten this far into the video, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I hope that you'll come back for my next build. I also hope that you will follow me on Instagram and DeviantArt, where I post images of my weapons. DeviantArt is where all the stills live permanently. And Instagram is where I post stuff I've built, as well as bargains I find, and cute cat pictures and things like that. So please come follow me there. Alrighty, thanks for being here, folks. See you next build.